Hey guys, this is Bruce, and I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the CIS control family and how that maps to NIST 853. Now, I've done another video where we talked about how NIST, how CIS controls map to ISO 27001. And the reason why I'm doing this is I want to show, like, if you know one security control family, if you know one set of controls, you kind of know them all. And I'll demonstrate that. Before I start, I wanted to show you guys a little bit about what I'm doing on the back end, how you can get free information on this stuff, and where you can see the free resources for where I did this for CIS controls to ISO 27001. So if you go to link in bio, convocourses.com, you'll see a site that looks like this. And I've got a bunch of courses, many of which are free and have a bunch of downloadables. And if you join my newsletter, sometimes I'll give books away for free. I'll give free resources, tons of free stuff. Most of the free stuff that I do is on YouTube or on Facebook. But yeah, so this is CIS Control Family. And in this one, this is free, totally free to sign up. Totally. I mapped CIS controls to ISO 27001. Free to download, and I actually walk you through this, so I explain what's going on with this. So that's free. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about, we're going to be breaking down how CIS controls map to NIST 800 controls. But before I do that, another thing I should let you know is that I actually expanded another part of my course. If you're interested, it is for breaking down the risk management framework, ISO 27001, and documentation piece. And so what we're doing is breaking down each one of the families and interpreting each one of those. So I've added the personally identifiable controls, his privacy, and how the NIST, how the government treats privacy. And then we've also added IA controls as well to this one. And we're just going to keep on adding more and more families to this. And it's been going pretty good, and appreciate everybody who's participated in that one. And the other one that we expanded, well, let me see, where's the other one at? The other one that we added stuff to is called the Security Controls, Security Control Assessor course. That one's been expanded as well. Added a whole section to that one if you're interested in that. Now there's 39 lessons to this one. And what we added here is the security assessment plan, and it's telling you how to do your own security assessment plan and like a downloadable, and then I walk you through how to do that. So if you're interested in that, go to convocourses.com. Without further ado, let's get into this actual lesson. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about is the CIS critical security control family. And what this does is it gives, essentially what it is it is the security best practices that all organizations should do, like the basic things that an organization should do to become more secure. So that is what the CIS controls do. And what I want to show you is how it maps to the government standard, which is called NIST 800 controls. Now, the last time we talked about this, we mapped the CIS controls to the to ISO 27001. And what's really interesting is if you know one, you have a good idea of all of them. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So let's break this down. I've got a spreadsheet here that I'm going to show you to show you how this all maps. Let me show you what we got going on there. Here it is right here. And let's just start off with one, CIS control 1.1, and it's focusing on establishing and maintaining a detailed asset inventory. So that includes your software, your hardware, all that kind of stuff. And if I'm not mistaken, they break it up by software and hardware. But for the sake of this, we'll just stick with one as a whole. CIS control 1, that family of control, all deal with asset identification, asset inventories. And that's making sure the organization has to know what their baseline is. That's what it really is all about. If the organization doesn't know what their baseline is, they don't really have a baseline. You can't have security without a baseline. Facts. You can't, if you don't know what's in your environment, how can you secure it? It's very basic. So let me show you what we're talking about here. So we're talking about how do we actually maintain the detailed enterprise asset inventory. So it kind of explains it here, details it right here, what they're looking to see. They're saying that you should have an up-to-date inventory of all the assets in your environment. And how organizations usually do this is they'll have a tool that collects all of the inventory. Like it'll either actively go and scan by IP or by MAC address or by host name or something, and it'll collect it in a database, and then it'll report any new items that are out there. It depends on how they configure it. So that is something an especially large to medium-sized organizations should have. Now, I've seen it as simple as having a spreadsheet, and then it just manually go and mark everything down. Now, how this maps to the CIS 800, the NIST 800 controls is it's called CM8, which is a system component inventory, and it's really doing the same thing. There, you got to develop and document an inventory of system components that accurately reflects what's going on in your environment. It's really the same thing. So if you know NIST 800, you know CIS controls. If you know CIS controls, you know NIST. They're equivalent. Now there are some things that are not mapped, and they have in this spreadsheet, which I'll have as a downloadable. If you go to convocourses.com, I'll post all this stuff up there, just like I did with the ISO 27001 stuff. But if you go there, you'll be able to download this, and you'll see some of the unmapped items, and they do have some that don't map. But 90% of this stuff does map. It's almost a one-to-one match on most of the security controls. There's slight variations here and there, but for the most part, it's very close. So let's go from CIS 1 control family, where we already talked about just at a high level, the inventory and making sure the organization has inventory and why they should have that. And let's go to the next one. So the next one is, the first one was hardware. The second one is software. And it's the same thing in NIST 800. You have to, they kind of lump them all together in CM8, but you also have CM7, least functionality. That means making sure that you don't have a bunch of services. If you've ever been on a server, the back end of a server, and you see a bunch of services just running in the background, that's not cool. Like, especially if those services are not needed. So this is talking about that. So this control right here, and the CIS has this one in the establishment and maintenance of maintaining of software inventory. So let's keep going here. I want to go down to 3. So we talk about hardware inventory, software inventory. How about data protection? So CIS data protection, and we're not going to go through every single one of these like we did with ISO 27001. We'll keep it high level. We'll keep hit a couple sections, and then we'll just move on. But the next one is talking about data protection. So what we're talking about here is establish and maintain a data management process. And what do we mean by that? So we need a process that addresses the data sensitivity, the data owners, how the data is handled, how the data is retained, the how we dispose of it, like the life cycle of the data, from inception, from when we make it, and we know it's okay. This data is classified. This data can go on these systems. We can send this data out. We can't send this data out. What's the sensitivity of the data? Things like that. That's data protection, knowing where it's all at. So that maps to AU. Actually, it maps to a few different controls, but one in the NIST 800 is AU11. AU is the is logging, audit logs. So if you have any of the AU controls, it's audit logs. So this one's dealing with audit record retention. How long do we retain and keep the logs on the system? Another one is CM12, which is information location. Where's the information located? And in data protection, that's really important. We need to know, where's it located? Where's it going to go? How are we going to protect it? Because if we don't even know where it is, how can we protect it? Another one is SI12, information management and retention. CM12, information location once again. So we have a bunch of different controls that map to the CIS3 controls. Let's keep going. Let's go to CIS4. So CIS4 is dealing with, let's see, it's dealing with of configuration of enterprise assets and software. So this is CM controls, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. CM controls for the NIST 800 control family, but we're talking about establish and maintain a secure configuration process. Yeah, this right here is also baseline. So this is making sure that we have a baseline and making sure that we are taking care of that. And yeah, it's CM. This is CM1 through CM, I think 8, if I'm not mistaken, CM9. Okay. So yeah, and this is talking about, okay, do we have a policy and a procedures for maintaining our configuration management, right? For our baseline. And then CM2, baseline configuration. We have to document, develop a baseline for our systems. So that means, like, if you have a laptop, that laptop needs to have a specific set of security controls, a specific set of software, specific configuration that all of our laptops are going to have and then sometimes there are exceptions. Like if you have a bunch of scientists or developers that need a specific certification, configuration, then they will have a different configuration, but they will still have a set configuration that the organization have to control. And the reason why this is important is if you have an organization that has a ton of different baselines, it's too hard to manage it. So that is how CIS Control 4 maps to NIST 800. And there was a couple other ones in here. I think it was SI. What was it? We got CM controls, SA. Okay, SA3, System Development Lifecycle, and some other ones. Let's keep going here. I'm going to keep this high level. What I want to demonstrate here is how CIS, if you know NIST 800, if you know ISO 27001, if you know CIS controls, you're going to have a very, very good idea of how the other frameworks work because they're very closely related and they're all best practice, security best practices. That's the most important part of this. And if you ever want to put this on your resume, this stuff right here that I'm showing you is exactly what employers want to see. They want to see that you've implemented configuration baseline. They want to see that you've implemented things like software asset management. Like it doesn't sound like security, right? Security, you would think, oh, security is all hacking. No, it's not. What I'm showing you right here, this is security. This is where the rubber meets the road. This also includes things like pen testing and things like that. It includes all the stuff that everybody talks about, software engineering. It includes all of that. But I'm saying, like, this is a huge umbrella. Cybersecurity is a huge umbrella. Okay, another one is account management. And what is account management? This is making sure that anybody who has an account, all the users, all the privileged users, the regular users, they're managed. Like we know who has, we know who's on our system. We have an inventory of all the accounts. We know whenever somebody goes to another organization or they leave the organization, we know that their account was terminated, right? We have a life cycle of their account. So this is on CIS 5. Now we definitely have this one. This is AC controls. And right there, see that AC controls, this is account management. And it's exactly what I just said. It's things like making sure we have documentation on the policies and procedures for how we add users to groups, give users privileges and all that stuff. It has to be tracked. And CIS controls also has that. Let's go on to the next one. I'm only going to do like a couple more. CIS 6. CIS 6 is dealing with access control management. So granting access to those users, like we have the users now who has access to what, controlling that. And this is also AC controls for the NIST 800, IA controls and AC controls. Yeah, see, there's AC controls right there. AC 1, AC 2, AC 3, I believe is in there, but also IA controls. IA controls are identity and authentication, and those deal with your username and your passwords, your multi-factor authentication. So this is where it goes deep into that. Let's go into one more. Let's do CIS 7 and see how that maps. CIS 7. This will all be downloadable. If you go to Convocourses, there will be a free course there that you can download all this, including this video and all that stuff. But CIS 7, let's see, it's continuous vulnerability management. So this one's definitely in the NIST 800 family. So this is, I believe this one has breaks it down by application and okay, just application. So let me see. Let's see. So this one's dealing with vulnerability management. That's like a good example of this is Microsoft. Microsoft is constantly having to upgrade their stuff, like just like Red Hat and all of Mac. They always have to upgrade because there's constant changes and constant discoveries of weaknesses in the operating systems, in the applications. So for that, you need a vulnerability management process within your organization. And how do we do that on the CIS? I mean, on the we do it on CIS with CIS 7. How do we do it on NIST 800? That's done with a combination of RA5, RA7, CI2, flaw remediation. That one's huge. That's vulnerability management right there. Flaw remediation means, let's say Windows 7 has a new Windows 7's going back pretty far, but Windows 7 has a 0-day exploit. We have to fix that flaw. So flaw SI2 means that we have a process in place where we will install the relevant software to fix that patch that system, to fix those the firmware or the software or whatever updates we need to fix. So yeah, that you could see it clearly maps. And then another thing that you'll use on a regular basis is vulnerability scanning tools to discover those flaws. And so that's about it. I got some questions here, so I'm going to go ahead and answer some of those. My whole thing about this, and the reason why I've been doing these, is to show you guys that number one, cybersecurity is not just about hacking. It's not just about software engineering. It's not just about red team type stuff, pen testing, things like that. It goes into inventory management. It goes, and some people say, well, Bruce, that's not cybersecurity. That's information security. Listen, split hairs all you want. Like, call it what you want. Call it information assurance. Call it surety, net surety, whatever name you want to pin on it. It doesn't matter to me. It's security of information systems. And I'm just telling you, this is a very wide field where you're not always having to do super technical stuff. Now, I love the technical stuff. Don't get me wrong. I actually love doing the pen testing. I love going to hack the box. I love installing sandboxes on my computer and messing around with my network and setting up NASs and all that kind of stuff. That stuff's really fun to me. It's like toys. But if you want to get paid in this industry, if you're seriously trying to get paid, if you're serious about this, then you should know that there's way more stuff going on with cybersecurity than just hacking. Okay. And that's the whole reason why I'm always talking about security compliance. Now, if you are interested in knowing more about security compliance, go to convocourses.com. There's tons of downloadables. There's a newsletter where I'll send out free stuff from time to time. And I'm always putting out free stuff like this. So, okay, let me read some comments here. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. I'm not going to go super heavy today on this one. JP says, I'd be interested in scan vulnerability analysis and mapping, finding the controls. I heard that the scan results don't always map to controls. I don't know why though. Okay, this one, JP, I think I might just do this one in the future because I get a lot of questions about what's called STIGs, Security Technical Implementation Guides, and the SEC. Which what I do is I'll set up a lab on my computer, which I have one. I would like to just kind of go through it myself and then show. I've done this before. If you go to YouTube and Convocourses, I did one where I broke down what are called CCIs. And CCIs are basically, they itemize each one of the controls of vulnerabilities that end up on Windows systems, on applications. They itemize them. They give each control that you should have a number. The Department of Defense does this, and they're very thorough about it. So a lot of organizations and industries throughout the world actually use the stuff that they put out there because it's very useful. So they have this common number of security controls, and those controls do map to a CIS control or to a NIST 800. And in fact, most of them, if not all of them, map in some way. Because if nothing else, if let me give you a specific example. Like let's say Windows 11 comes out, right, and then they have a vulnerability in the AV portion of the tool. Like the AV tool has a 0-day exploit or something. AV is antivirus, and the antivirus. So this stuff happens, by the way. there's some kind of a flaw there. So, and they'll say it's CCI -578 2022 or so, whatever it is, right? And they say that you have to update this patch, and that's how you fix it, something to that effect, or you have to enable the automatic update on the signatures for an AV tool, something like that, right? That, let's say that's a control that's in the, after you scan, you'll find that one. Well, that maps directly to SI2, which is flaw remediation for NIST 800. So that's one example of how, now flaw remediation, that's a very broad term. Like that covers many different things. That can cover operating systems, software, hardware. Like it can cover so many different things, and they make it like that on purpose. And the same thing with CIS controls that you're looking at here. CIS controls are broad. They're broad enough to where they can cover many things, because you're having to deal with vendor agnostic situations. Like you're not always going to have a Windows system, you're not always going to have a Mac system, so you have to make it, write it in such a way that it's all encompassing for the organization to adjust, so that they can meet the control, they can put the security best practices in place no matter what vendor that they're using. So I hope that makes sense. I hope I'm not speaking gibberish here. But okay, but yeah, to answer your question, I will do one of those one of these days. I'll set everything up in advance. Okay, JP also says, yes, that would be great if one day you can make a topic discussion in the future video. Okay, yeah, not a problem, not a problem. And I've gotten that question before, so I will be covering that. Navi, thanks Navi for joining me, man. I always see you on here. I appreciate you. He says, hey, Bruce, thanks for regular live streams. Yeah, these are not easy, by the way. It's like, I really, sometimes I'm like, oh, God. Once I get doing it, I'm good. But like starting it for whatever reason is just hard for me. I don't know why. How do I get this matrix? So if you want to get this right now, you don't want to wait for me to do this. You can get this off of CIS's website. Let me show you real quick. All I do is add the extra value I'm using is just telling you guys, like, in layperson's terms, what's going on. But if you want to get this yourself, let me switch it just for the 1.5 people that's watching me on TikTok real quick. So what I did was, this is site called CISsecurity.org. And if you just Google CIS controls to NIST 853, you'll find this. This is free game. You can get this off the internet, and it maps to several different other frameworks. But what I'm going to do is this video that we're doing here, this live, I will upload this to convocourses.com with the commentary, so you can go back or whatever, and what I've been doing is adding like a series. So I've got one for CIS controls where we go through all the control families. And then now we have one for NIST 800. And then maybe I'll do another one. I'll just keep doing these to where it maps. We're mapping controls back and forth. And like I said, my main purpose of doing this is so that I can articulate that there's many other aspects of cybersecurity, information security, information assurance, whatever you want to call it. There's many different aspects to this umbrella. It's not just hacking. It's not just, finding 0-day exploits. That stuff's really cool. I really enjoy that kind of stuff. I can't do a lot of that stuff, but I like messing around with it. But okay, somebody on TikTok says, hey, how's it going, man? How's the studying for AWS going? I actually haven't started. That's a great question. Thank you so much for that question. I haven't started it yet. I'm actually in between jobs right now. So my plan is, once I get this job, my new job is going to be doing, if the background stuff goes through fast. I don't know. I'm still interviewing, to be honest with you. But so this job's gonna have a lot of cloud stuff. So what my plan was is to integrate my studies with my work. So once I get this job where I'm doing validations, I think I'm doing some validation verification, I'm doing security controls on cloud stuff. I will start going deeper into my AWS. I'm gonna take the AWS certification. And I'll let you guys know how that goes. And what would be really dope is if I can like make a course like that speaks in layman's terms and stuff like that. Maybe it'll be free. I don't know, but it'll give you a different aspect on implementing security controls in a government environment. Something like that is what I would like to do. Okay, that's a good question. Thank you so much for that, TikTok. Tony says, I'm very good at NIST, trying to branch out to other frameworks. Well, this is your lucky day, Mr. Tony, because let me tell you, if you know NIST, if you're very good at NIST, then you're going to be very good at CIS controls. So what I was going through, if you missed it, as I was mapping the CIS controls directly to controls in the NIST family. For example, like one of the ones we started off with was baseline security controls, configuration management. So as you know, CM8 is for system component inventory, which means that we have to document the inventory that we have, like making sure all of our assets, our devices are all in some sort of inventory, whether it be an automated system that's a database, or if we're writing it. I mean, old school, writing it by hand. We have to have some sort of an inventory. Obviously, that's not possible. That's not practical with a large system environment, but I've seen people do it with a spreadsheet, and it's horrible to do that, but it's still would qualify as maintaining a detailed enterprise asset inventory. But look at this. If you know NIST CM8, you also know CIS 1.1 in particular. So it's also talking about the same thing. We have to make sure that we have the organization establishes and maintains a detailed enterprise asset inventory, just like CM8. So yeah, and it breaks down in actually greater detail, if you ask me, what kinds of things an organization should have. So if you know NIST controls, you know CIS. If you know CIS controls, you know NIST 800, a large percent. I would say NIST is way more comprehensive. It covers way more ground. That's for sure. So if you know NIST, actually you have an advantage over CIS controls. You actually have an advantage over ISO 27001 controls, because there's 1,000 controls in NIST. NIST is very, very comprehensive. So much so that one thing I realized, this is crazy. It's going to blow your mind, Tony, but there's a lot of other countries that copy the NIST. Like I'm talking about, they use the NIST, which I thought it was only the US that uses it, but Australia uses the NIST. Canada, some parts of the government in Canada they refer to NIST. Like if you read their documentation, they'll be cross-referencing the NIST. That's how comprehensive the NIST 800 is. It's because it's over 1,000 controls. The controls are broken up to only 18, 20, or 20 families, whatever. But those controls break down into hundreds and hundreds of controls, and those hundreds of controls will have what's called a security enhancement, which are counted as a separate control. So there's over 1,000 controls. It's the most comprehensive. So if you know this one, man, you can nail PCI DSS. I mean, it's not even close. You can nail HIPAA. A lot of stuff they talk about. Now, HIPAA is a little bit different because they talk specifically about healthcare information, and there's some terminology you have to learn. But even Sarbanes-Oxley, which is for financial sector, all of these are security control. They have security controls, and they may call them something different, but they're all security controls. They're security features that you put on an information system. They're security features you put on your phone. Like they have controls specifically for phones. Anything that's a computer, like whether it's a phone or a desktop computer or a server or a cloud device, whatever the case may, even some IoT devices, Internet of Things devices. Each of them have a component that's built in that you have to protect. So these frameworks, these rules, that's all a framework just means, our set of rules. All of these break down how to actually secure systems. And it's not just physical devices, it's also software, it's also applications. So let me see. Navi has a question. He says, if you were paid speaking training events for cybersecurity, what topic would you have the highest? What would have the highest demand? I would probably right now, cloud. Cloud security right now is it's on fire, man. Like cloud and blockchain security will probably have the highest. I could not speak on either one of those. I wouldn't feel qualified to speak on them. NIST 800, I could talk off the top of my head like I'm doing now. But it's not in high demand. It's very niche. I suspect in the future, the near future, it won't be, because security is getting more and more important. So I'm getting more and more people reaching out to me, getting more and more offers, getting more and more people interested in this stuff. Whereas before it was a desert with tumbleweeds. There's nobody talking about it. It was so bad when I first started this, is that I would create websites. I created a website years ago, and I put it out there, and people knew who I was from my website, because they were using my website as a source, as a primary source to learn stuff about this. But now it's different. Like, there's so many different people who have YouTube channels and have TikTok and have all of these different platforms. They're on these platforms talking about this stuff, and I appreciate that, because we need to get the word out. There's not really enough people doing this work. There's not enough people talking about it, and that's why so many people are getting hacked, because they think that protection is just a firewall. They think that protection is just ethical hacking or something, and that's not the case. Your weakest link is actually your users, who have to be educated on this kind of stuff. Okay, I got another one from Tony. Let me see. He says, I was surprised that some commercial entities are now adopting NIST. Me too. I'm blown away. In the past, they frowned upon it. Oh, I didn't know that. And they used to think that it had too many controls. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, they did say that. As a matter of fact, I remember, Tony, I was in something called DITSCAP, DoD Information Technology Certification and Accreditation Program. And that was back in the 90s. And then we transitioned to something called DIACAP, and it had way less controls. It had like maybe, I don't know, 40 controls or 50 something. It wasn't a lot. It's been a while. But DIACAP, yeah, it wasn't as robust as NIST. And then like they start talking about adopting the NIST stuff, and we were shook, man. We were like, what? NIST has 1,000 controls? We're like, that's not going to work. There's no way we can make that work. But as I started to understand more about it, I start to realize you tailor the controls. You don't add controls that you don't need. And what I mean to say is, like, let's say you have an organization, and the organization they have servers, they have cloud technology, but they don't have wireless, right? So with the NIST, you still do a lot of the controls, but what you wouldn't do is you wouldn't do the wire. There's a couple controls that refer to wireless. You wouldn't do those controls, obviously. And then there's a control that refers to remote logins. If you don't have remote logins in your organization, that's a NA. It's not applicable. If you had no users for whatever reason, you have a system that has absolutely no users and no system user accounts and at all, then you wouldn't need a lot of the AC controls. You wouldn't need IA controls. You wouldn't need a lot of those. So you tailor NIST to your system. Basically, it gives you all the tools you need to protect your organization. But that doesn't mean, like, if you don't need a saw to do the work, you use a hammer and nails, whatever you need to do that work. But if you don't need all the tools in your toolbox, you won't use all those tools. You're tailoring that whatever controls you need to do the work for your organization. And in my mind, that's the cool thing about it, because it's not telling you you're not having to use everything. Before I thought that, okay, is 1,000 controls not going to work because you can't put all 1,000 controls in there. But no, that's not what you do. So that was it's been nice to use. Actually, it's actually easier, in my opinion. It's easier. It's more precise, and it's more effective. Easier because in DIACAP and some of the other old DoD controls, it didn't do a good job of protecting the system because we get a new technology in, and DIACAP couldn't address that. So you were just doing a policy, a procedure, but you wouldn't have anything to address, like say cloud technology or something. When cloud technology first came out, I don't know if you guys remember this, but it was called LAMP. They called it Linux. Oh man, oh my lord, oh god, it was Linux, Apache, um, PHP, and they basically clumped all of these really innovative technologies together, and it was so fast that uh you could, and then the internet started getting faster and faster, so you can make a cheap Linux server that was more effective than your Windows server, and you could put it somewhere else, and then you could run stuff, and that was cloud. That's the beginning stages of cloud, because cloud technology is like a rack of servers that you could set up that's cheaper. That's why Netflix is using it, Disney is using it, and all the major players, DoD, everybody's moving to it because it's just cheaper to do. Because now technology has gotten to a point where you can run way more resources cheaper. So anyway, DICAP didn't have an answer for that when it first started coming out. And any kind of new technologies was harder to keep up with. Somebody said, "How do you stay inspired studying cybersecurity? It's a lot of information and pays well." How do I, in the very beginning? That's a very good question. Now, in the very beginning stages, that's a question from TikTok, by the way. Um, I was so excited about learning IT stuff. I was really, really. For me, it was like toys, and it was back in the late '90s where everything was going crazy. The internet was just being like discovered by it being used and consumed. I mean, internet had been out for like 20 years before that, 30 years maybe. But the World Wide Web was blowing up, and all these people were making millions of dollars off making. I remember there was a site called IP Chicken. It might still be out there. It's ipchicken.com or .org. Be careful. It might be a virus site by now. I don't know. But IP Chicken was big. All it did was you put an IP Chicken or IP Monkey or whatever, because it was easy to remember, and they will tell you what your IP was. That was it. And that site made millions of dollars. You could do something like that in the late 90s, and you'd make $1 million off of that website. And I think that guy was living off that income. I remember that dude, Kevin Rose from dig.com. I don't know if you guys remember. This is all old stuff. But anyway, he said one of his friends made IP Chicken and was making like $75,000 a month or something. Anyway, I was excited because there were stories like that happening. It was very reminiscent of what's going on with blockchain technology and all that. It was a wild, wild west. Like there was a lot of people getting scammed and a lot of crazy stuff happening, but there's also a lot of huge success stories that came out of it. And so I was super excited to get involved with that. It was very reminiscent of what you see with blockchain and cryptocurrency and all that. It's so there's so many similarities, but I only think differences. I would say that the cryptocurrency is way bigger. Not the blockchain is way bigger than what we saw, because blockchain could replace freaking money, which is insane to me. All right, let me see. I got another question here. But yeah, to stay motivated. Um, that's actually what I'll tell you is this before I move on. One of the great things about what I do, which is security compliance, is that this doesn't change as quickly as, say, being a Linux security guy or a firewall security guy. This field right here, it stays the same for a while because these are security best practices. They do change. Like I would say they change about the last time the CIS, the NIST controls changed was, it was like 3 years ago, wasn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong, Tony, but it changed. Like it went from NIST 837 went from Rev 1 to like Rev 2. and that was like a 10-year change. So it doesn't change as quickly. And so for me, being an older dude, I don't have to keep up with all. I mean, yeah, I do. Like right now, I got to learn cloud and I got to learn some blockchain stuff, but I can kind of go at my own pace. But if you were, I remember when I was a seam guy. I was really good at ArcSight. I knew how to build it from scratch. I learned how to build it from scratch, how to develop the content for it, everything. It's a seam, basically. It brings in all logs and it can parse the logs. ArcSight's not really used as much anymore. I mean, it's out there, but it's not like the major players are like not ArcSight. It's like Splunk, and I think IBM has something or something like that. So if I wanted to get back into SIEM technology, I'd have to learn that stuff from scratch, man. I mean, I have a good foundation. Like I know networking good. I know a little bit of scripting. I know like a little bit. I know Linux. I can navigate my way through it, so I could figure it out on how to build content. I know how that stuff works, but I still have to learn it. So you constantly have to learn when you're in the weeds on a one vendor system. It is hard. It's challenging. It's definitely challenging. Okay, let me see. Nabi says, sorry about the typo earlier. I'm working on cloud, and the controls are similar to NIST 800. Yep, because it's all common security stuff with unique considerations for cloud environments. Right, right. That's why FedRAMP is so similar. Basically, it's not really different from anything in NIST 800. Certification of cloud security knowledge is a good base. Wow, that's awesome, man. Thanks for that information because I'm gonna be studying that real soon. And then Nabi goes on to say, Cloud Security Alliance has a lot of controls that map to 853, and it's called the Cloud Control Matrix. Oh crap, I gotta look that up. Thanks, man. Thanks for that information. See, I'm starting to have to learn this stuff on cloud stuff, and I'm let me see, Cloud Security Matrix. Thanks for that information, man. I didn't know about this. Is this what you're talking about? Cloud Alliance, Cloud Control Matrix. Oh, wow. Thanks, man. I appreciate this. I'm gonna need this, I think. If you don't mind me asking, Navi, what kind do you have a certification in cloud stuff? Are you in cloud right now? I think you told me before in one of our previous videos. So when I'm for you guys on TikTok who's watching me, what I'm looking at right here on the screen is a cloud security matrix thing, and I'm interested in this because I have to I have to deep dive into this real soon. So this has all the security controls for cloud, and it has CSA best practices. Huh. Wow. Okay. This is great, man. This is a great resource. I'm gonna have to look through this. It has different domains. Oh, look at this. Cool. Cloud computing concepts and architecture, governance, and cloud environment risk. Oh man, this is me right here. Legal issues and contracts. Okay. This looks like some FedRAMP stuff too. Oh, virtualization and containers. That's technical right there. Infrastructure security. That talks about like PaaS, like a platform as security, as a security service, or like software as a service, security as a service, because you can do all that stuff with cloud. Application security, incident response, notifications. Yeah, there it is right there. Security as a service. Oh, wow. Okay, man, this is great, man. Thanks, Navi. Thanks for that. I appreciate this. I'm gonna definitely download this, and because I'm gonna have to take this certification real soon. I'll give myself about 6 months to take it, but you know me, man. I'm always saying that. Last time I said, "Oh, I'm gonna take the CEH," and I never did. But I really got to do this cloud stuff, man, because the last time I was gonna tell you guys, um, I've been interviewing, and almost every interviewer asked me about cloud stuff, and I was like, I could only tell them the FedRAMP stuff that I knew. I couldn't tell them like in the weeds of what's going on with cloud, which I got to learn it. So, yeah. All right, guys, I think that's it. I'm going to end this live. Sorry for keeping it short. It's only been 40 minutes. Normally I go for like an hour and 20 or hour and 30 minutes or something like that. But I appreciate everybody who responded to me. Thank you guys for interacting. I really appreciate it. I do this every week. If you're interested in having more interaction on a regular basis, the best way to see this stuff is on YouTube. Sign up, follow me on YouTube, turn on notifications. I've been doing lives like every other day or something. And if another way to follow me is podcasts. I've been releasing podcasts like every day. I'm not going to be able to do this, sustain this level of content. The only reason I'm doing this because I don't have a job. I'm in between jobs right now, and so I just doubled down on my normal content. But if you want to follow me, convocourses.com. That's one way. YouTube, Convocourses, TikTok, Convocourses, and one of the best ways is definitely YouTube, and then turn on the notifications. So that's how to contact me. That's how to find me. That's how to see this regular content. But that's it. Without further ado, that's it, guys. I got more stuff. Stay tuned. I got more stuff that's coming out. I've got more books coming out. I've got more content, like really good stuff, but I have to work on this. These are things that I have to like spend some time to create. So it's going to take me a bit. Thanks a lot. Okay, I got some more questions here. Navi said, you got it. I'm not in cloud, but have a CISSP and almost ready for the CCSCSK cloud security. Oh yeah, I know a couple people who have that. And then he said, I think the AWS practitioner would be good as well. That's the one I'm going to take. AWS practitioner is one I'm gonna do. Seems like what I need to start with, and then I'll figure out whether I want to specialize and go deeper into cloud stuff. It just keeps coming up, so I definitely need to get hardcore on it. But okay, that's it, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate everybody, and follow me on podbeam.com where I have my podcast. Later, peace. I'm out. Happy Halloween.